What's up guys, my name is Andre and welcome to a new video. Now in this video I'm going to be showing you the basic editing for gameplays. Now this tutorial is going to be based around a clip that was recorded using fraps. Even if you don't use fraps, you can stick to this tutorial because I'm going to be teaching some stuff that is important to any sort of gameplay editing, not just for fraps recordings. Okay, so first let's take a look at the project settings. You can see right here that the project settings are 720p 30 frames per second. This will depend on quite a lot of things, and it will take into account in the recording process how powerful is your computer, how much free space you have on your hard drive, and then after the rendering, how is the speed of your connection, and what do you think it is an ideal size for a video file rendered with Vegas. So first of all, let's take a look right here at the project properties. You can see right here that the project properties are HDV 720 30p. As I mentioned, 720p 30 frames per second. But the clip that I'm going to be adding here, I want the final video to be in full HD 60 frames per second. So this preset is not included with Sony Vegas, but you can create it. And in case you want to, here are the settings. So you can just copy them out and save as a template. You just type in this. You just put the settings that I have here, and then you write this line that I wrote here at the beginning, and then you click this floppy disk right here and it will save the template. So okay, I want the video to be full HD 60 frames per second. Alright, so now the video, the actual project, will be running at full HD 60 frames per second. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to be messing around with the video in 720p for performance handling, and then the final video is going to be rendered in full HD, because the project settings doesn't actually mean the quality that it will be at the end after you have rendered the project. It's just that project settings is just a way of previewing the quality, the resolution, and the frame rate that the project is going to have afterwards, if you're going to use the project settings to render the video afterwards. That's up to you. So I'm going to import a video right here. And I recorded a clip just for the purposes of this tutorial. So if you take a look right here at the bottom, it says video 1920 by 1080, 24 bits, 75 frames per second. And why is that? Two things that I want to say about fraps before we get into the editing itself. First, you should always have a separate hard drive for fraps recordings, because on a full HD 75 frames per second video, the data rate, if I show you the data rate right here real quick, if I show you the data rate, you will see that the data rate is 328 megabits per second. And I can convert that to megabytes per second, and then we will see how much data the video actually sucks in. So let's go here to the big calculator. So the video data rate is 41 megabytes per second, and believe me or not, 41 megabytes per second is a lot of data. So you should definitely have a separate hard drive just for fraps recordings. If you can have an SSD for this function, it's even better. So second thing I want to be talking about fraps is that even if not programmed to, fraps will lock your frame rate close or even at the frame rate that you are recording the video. So I'm going to pop up my fraps right here real quick. I'm actually recording using it. So if I go here to the movies tab, you'll see that I actually set the video to be recorded on 75 frames per second. And it's not programmed to lock the frame rate while I am recording. Still, if my computer can't do a little bit above 75 frames per second, it will lock the frame rate at 75. By this logic, if you set the recording frame rate to 60 frames per second, if your computer can't do more than 60, just a little bit more than 60, it will lock your frame rate to 60. And although 60 frames per second is quite smooth for a video, it definitely isn't for real-time gameplay while you're playing the game. So I would suggest that you set this value a little bit higher, My monitor has a refresh rate of 75 Hz, so recording at 75 frames per second means that I am recording at the same refresh rate as the monitor, so I have no screen tearing, and the video is going to be quite smooth for me, and the game is going to be quite smooth while I'm playing it. So let's drop the video in the timeline, and it will ask you if you want to use the data of the video to set the settings of the project. Normally you will click no, but it is up to you again. Now, first thing you should always do when dropping a clip in Sony Vegas, right click on just select the video clip up here, right click, switches, disable resampling. Because the video was recorded at 75 frames per second and the project is running at 60. So what resample does is that it'll try to blur the frames together to make the video look and feel like 75 frames per second when the video is running at 60. That takes a little bit more of power from your computer, thus making the rendering slower. So you should definitely disable this at all times. Okay? Second thing, this option is only for Fraps recordings. Click right here. You can give it a right click right here, and on Video Event Effects, right here on Sony Levels, it should be down here because I have another one that's reduced noise. It's not included. Add OK. Now this will fix a issue that Fraps has when you are editing clips in Sony Vegas, and that is that the color space that Fraps record is different than the color space that Sony Vegas uses. So we have to match them, and for that we use the Levels plugin. So we choose the last option right here, Computer RGB to Studio RGB. You can see that the video became a little bit brighter, and that's the purpose, because now the video that Fraps recorded matched the color space that Sony Vegas uses. So now the video will have the correct brightness. Now that the clip is ready, let's begin with the editing. First of all, the most basic thing you have to have using Sony Vegas, the split. The split is to separate two parts of a clip, like I've done right here. And for that we have a hotkey, and that hotkey is S. The S key splits a video indefinitely. Very useful. Second, something that a lot of people want to do and they don't know how to. What if I want to separate the video and the audio? That key is U. The U key will separate the video and the audio. In case you want to join them back together again, you just select both using Ctrl key and press G, and they are linked together again. You can do this with multiple clips to create a group. So if you have the video file, the audio of the game, and your voice at the bottom, you can have so. You just have to select all three using Ctrl key and then press G. Now, let's say that I want to modify the time of the video, make it slower. Well, to make it slower, you will go to the edge of the clip, hold the Ctrl key, and stretch the video. Sony Vegas will actually have a limit for stretching the video, but you can see that it's quite smooth right here because the video frame rate was pretty high. I mean 75 it's pretty high, it's almost like slow-mo. And in case you want to make it faster, it's the other way around. You hold the Ctrl key and you squash the video file to make it even faster. Like that. If you want to have the original playback time, it will kind of magnetize itself into the original length of the video. It's hard to miss. Now, fades. How do I do fade-ins and fade-outs in Sony Vegas? It's quite simple. When you have two icons that are displayed when you select an edge of a clip, the trim event end, which will extend the clip or make it loop, and you have this other one right here in the corner that is fade out offset. This will allow you to control for how much long it takes for the video to fade out. Here it says 1 second and 21 milliseconds. Same for the fade-ins. So if I click on it, you can see it fades out. Fades in, sorry. Same for the end of the clip. It's going to fade out. Now, in case you want to make the video clip and the audio clip to fade together, you will first add the fade of the clip and click with the mouse right over the end of the fade. And then you'll select the fade of the audio and then extend it, and then it will snap the fade of the video and the audio together. So now they fade together. Same for the fade out. Select a fade out here. I'll just extend the fade out of the clip, of the audio clip, and it's done. They will fade out together. Now, in case I want to combine two videos in a fade out process, that's even simpler. All you have to do is to put one video on top of the other like this, and it will fade out each video on top of each other. Right here it says 1 second, so it will take 1 second to fade between the two videos. You can see, if I click right here, you can see the fading effect, because if I put it to play, the computer is gonna lag the preview, and it's done. Now, one effect that I simply don't see very often being shown in tutorials for Sony Vegas, and it is one that I think it kind of matters, and is the motion blur. Motion blur in Sony Vegas Pro is not hard to do. Actually, it doesn't take any effort. You have to insert a hotkey combination. So there are two ways of enabling the motion blur. You can hold the Ctrl, Shift, and B key together, and this track will appear. Or you can go right here on View and Video Bus Track. You can see right here the key combination. So you want to give a right click in this track, and right here on Insert Remove Envelope, you just add a motion blur amount. Now a pink track will appear at the bottom, and that enables you to control how much of a motion blur you want in the video. And you'll actually see the effect being applied into the video. For real, if the video frame rate is high, there is no reason for adding motion blur. Although, if the video is a 30 frame per second video and you want it to be a little bit smoother without actually having to have a bigger file with a higher frame rate, and then eventually the file is gonna be bigger, then you can use this effect to increase the smoothness of the video. Okay, now it comes to the rendering. So the rendering part is a little bit tricky because it takes in account the speed of your internet connection. It takes in account the power of your computer. We have a lot of things to take in account here. So let's open up. Let's click on this icon up here, and it will open the rendering window, where you can select the presets that you want to use. Now I want to uncheck this box. Now you will have to select a preset that matches what you want the video to be. If you want the video to be 30 frames per second in 720p or 30 frames per second in Full HD, it's all up to you. So in case the preset that you want is not available, you can create your own. So right here at the bottom of the window, we have this checkbox that says View All Options. You mark it, and you can do whatever the heck you want with the presets. So let's say I want to use the Sony AVC MVC format to create a profile for rendering in Full HD 60 frames per second. I can't. So I have to select a preset first, and then I can click on Customize Template and add my own settings, and I have already done that. And it's this preset right here. On encoder mode down here, it says render using GPU if available. Normally this will be set to render using CPU only, but if you have an NVIDIA video card or AMD video card, you can set this to GPU, because that will enable the video card to do the rendering process, thus making it a little bit faster. On bitrate, this is how much data rate you want your video to use, and that is variable and it is up to you, because this will mainly affect the quality of the video. YouTube has its own page containing all the standards that they recommend you to use on AVC, but their standards are kind of low. You can see that for Full HD 60 frames per second on AVC, they recommend 12 megabits per second, and that's quite low. So for that, I recommend you to use at least 16 megabits per second. That's going to do it fine. In the audio, they recommended to use AAC with a sampling rate of 48 kilohertz, and the bit rate, they recommended to use 384 kilobits per second. And I'll tell you, that's a lot of data for audio, because AAC is a very efficient codec. It will sound much better on 128 kilobits per second than an MP3 will do. So the value that I recommended to use is 160. Audio encoding mode, it's always stereo, but if you have the gear and if you want to do so, you can have 5.1 surround sound files being generated using this. Once you're done editing your template, you can give it a name, in this case HD 1080-60p. You can click the floppy disk icon to save it. Now about the rendering times. Now Sony Vegas is quite a heavy program, and Vegas Pro 13 is a 64-bit only software, so you automatically have to have a good computer in order just to install it. So the rendering time will be decided by the power of your processor or of your video card, depending on what you have set in the preset down here. So now let's render the video, shall we? So I will select the preset, and if you click on browse, you can actually select where the video is going to be rendered, and you can give it a name. For example, I'll say tutorial, and then you will click render and the process will start. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys later.